Okay, can you guys see me now? I think I figured this out. I'm sorry to hear you're so tired, Pom Pom. You know, you don't have to stick around. So, you do see me? You guys can see me now? Or it's working? Okay. Right on, right on. Using a new broadcasting software because I didn't want to mess with the setup on the broadcasting software for my Making a Murderer channel. So I got another type of broadcasting software and tied it to this one. So, alright, good. Now, you guys are seeing me up in the corner, so let me see if I can fix that. Alright. There we go. That's much better. Alright. How's everybody doing? Oh, we got 4 people now. Let's see. The you go wow in my face close up. Yeah. Well, you know, you didn't want me up in the corner, did you? Right? I mean. So, alright. Now that we got that resolved. Here, let me shrink it down a little bit. Back down to normal. Right there. Alright. Enough. Nobody puts Erico's in the corner. That's hilarious. Alright. So, alright. Is it time to drink now? Because here we go. I got my special glass given to me by Mr. Capaldi. It says Erico's AM. I live on Avery Road. Got my Johnny Black Label. So, how's everybody doing? How you doing, Linda? Are you still enjoying your Corona with lime? I like the corner. You guys are hilarious. Cheers. I don't know who's out there, but hopefully Linda at least has her Corona with lime. Cheers. Thank you, DSP. It was given to me by Mr. Capaldi. And I gotta say, it is kind of one of my treasured possessions nowadays. Not that I'm a drinker. I rarely do. But occasionally, I do, like, you know, have some scotch or something, you know, so. You finished your screwdriver? So it's been, you know, an interesting day, and so figured I'd get on here and have a good time with you folks and talk about whatever, and, you know. Foam in the nose drink too. So, you know, it's pretty interesting things going on. I noticed that a lot of the other true crime channels and stuff have been covering the Epstein thing. And I actually haven't been able to. I just haven't had time to look into it too much. I find it suspect, and the more I hear about it, the more suspect I am about it, just because of some of the weird accounts around it and everything. So it's odd. And I was actually listening to Sean Atwood talk about it for a little bit, but so a lot of people are covering those things. I just haven't had the time recently. I've been just slammed, so busy, and God, just haven't had time to do anything. Hey, Catnip. Cheers. I can't wrap my mind around that. So, yeah, it's been an interesting time, you know. Recently got Judge Sukowitz's decision, you know. And you know, just the thing that stands out, you know, where it's like, we gave the family animal bones. So what? I mean, it's like that kind of an attitude. And I mean, it clearly says in the statute biological material, and the statute was written by Norm Gahn, the guy who was there at the little party to decide what bones to give back. He was one of the guys there. He had written the statute. When you think about it, what people are going to know, you know, that they're doing wrong, that what they were doing was wrong. They clearly understood that what they were doing was violation of statute, and that's why they hid what they did. And for me, that's the crucial thing here, because it shows they knowingly hid what they knew was wrong, and that shows a great deal of forethought on their part. And for me, that's the most damning thing. Yes, I saw he had the free Brendan Dassey shirt on. Yes, hashtag Brendan Dassey t-shirt on. Yes, I commented on his video and said, nice shirt. Biological material belonging to the victim. It was never identified as belonging to the victim. Well, I disagree. I believe it was identified as belonging to the victim when it was given back to the family. It shows that even though the prosecution was desperate not to have the jury hear it and be able to consider it, but they clearly thought that those bones were Teresa's. They clearly did. For me, and Judge Sukowitz saying law enforcement officers, like these are just some Dudley deputies who got together and made this decision? No. Fallon and Gahn are two of your three prosecutors on this case. Who's going to know this case and know about these prior reports of Leslie Eisenberg's prior to trial better than them, and be able to form an opinion that those reports were accurate enough for them to use one of those reports to determine which bones they were going to give back, because they wanted to try and give back the bones they believed were Teresa. Right? I mean, that's right. And for her to suggest that it's just some law enforcement officer or whatever, like some Dudley deputy somewhere, you know, no, it's not three Jeremy Hawkins there doing this. There's one Jeremy Hawkins. Then there's a Gahn, there's a Fallon, there's a Wiegert, right? You know, there was a lot of forethought that went into this. You know, they knew what they were doing was going to be a potential problem, and it has become one, right? Isn't going to do anything to help move this. Well, it's now back to the Court of Appeals. So, and if the Court of Appeals decides they wanted more fact finding, and then obviously they're going to send it back, but trust me, they're probably not going to send it back to Judge Sukowitz. They're going to probably send it back to a judge who's going to hold a hearing, like they want for the fact finding. So, I mean, I got the impression that the Court of Appeals was none too amused with the state's arguments regarding these bones when they tried to argue about a procedural bar, and basically that was their whole argument. I mean, obviously the Court of Appeals didn't, they didn't really like that one. They didn't take to that very kindly. Oh. So, I think it's interesting. And plus we know that recently in Wisconsin that the Supreme Court there, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, recently made a decision that changes the way Brady is interpreted in Wisconsin. And now it's not nearly as reliant on defense due diligence. It's no longer a matter of could the defense, if this and that and da and they were able to do these things, whatever, could they have gotten this information? It's no longer about that. It's about if it was in the possession of the prosecution and it was held back, that's Brady violation. So it's going to be interesting, but we know that, and that's going to apply to the CD issue, which is still part of the appeal, which is now going to be moving forward for the Court of Appeals to decide on all of the things together. So it's inevitable that they're going to find some merit in some number of the things that are before them. Certainly they must have some questions, because the Court of Appeals doesn't remand cases for fact-finding in Wisconsin very often. It doesn't happen hardly at all. In fact, Tracy Strunze talks about how the fact that it's kind of like a thing that's unheard of, it's like happened a handful of times in Wisconsin, really. And she said, and the fact that it's now happened twice in one case is extremely interesting. And I got to agree, that is extremely interesting. For this to have been the first time that it's happened twice in one case is pretty darn interesting. Yeah, I look forward to that hearing too. I wish I'd be able to be until 10, but unless it's a lot farther out than I would like it to be. Yeah, I know what you mean, Pom Pom. I get that they're loophole. Yeah, I know. They can try that, but I mean, they've kind of now proven that it's pretty reasonable to assume that those bones out in the gravel pit and in the quarry were Teresa's by their own actions. I mean, it's like I said, these aren't just some Dudley deputies somewhere, at some sheriff's department's evidence locker. Okay, these are the guys who knew more about this case than anyone, and I think I can say that honestly because they held stuff back from Dean and Jerry and tried to hide things, as we all know, like the CD and the Fassbender's report about it by burying it in about 46 other DCI reports, and all the various tactics that they used to try to hide things and everything. So something tells me that, yeah, they probably are more knowledgeable than anybody else on this case, even more than Judge Sukowitz, and they thought Eisenberg's early reports were correct, obviously, because they were working from those reports to decide what bones they wanted to give back to the Hall box. And they also knew that this was wrong, and that's why they hid what they were doing. So, the law doesn't operate on assumption, especially not in appeals and in an original trial. Assumptions, when trying to get an appeal hearing granted, assumptions will be laughed at. Yeah, they know. I'm reminded of the John Mayer song, when they control the information, they can bend it all they want. That's what Wisconsin reminds me of. You know, they know they're in control, and so they just shut up. They don't say anything, and they just continue to just be, you know, silent and wait, and I guess hope that eventually things are going to just go away. I mean, that's my thought of, you know, what they are doing. So I don't feel like it, but that's what we're seeing. I want the court to look at how effing ridiculous all this. Yeah. And I think the Court of Appeals is going to look at everything. I mean, you got to imagine they got all of Kathleen Zellner's original motion for post-conviction relief. Everything in there. Okay? That's on appeal. So all those issues she's bringing up there. The hood latch. Everything. Okay? Everything she's bringing up there. Then we have the CD issue, which was handed over by the state after the motion for post-conviction relief was denied. It wasn't handed over before so it could be made part of the original post-conviction relief, right? But after. And that's why it's so disingenuous to listen to their arguments about procedurally barred, you know, and being they should be procedurally barred from bringing these claims and all this and that, and procedural bar this and that and everything. When if they were so concerned about those issues and about the process and why they want everything to come in under one motion, you know, one single motion for post-conviction relief, if they actually really cared about that process, they would have handed the CD over before. But they didn't. They waited until after it was denied. And remember I said that things have only been remanded in Wisconsin. The Court of Appeals have only remanded things a handful of times, and this is where the first time in this case we have the CD issue gets remanded to the district court for fact finding. Judge Sikowitz basically denies it, sends it back to the Court of Appeals. Kathleen Zellner was getting ready to file her motion about the original motion for post-conviction relief and the CD and computer evidence when she discovered, she filed a motion to test the bones from the gravel pit because she didn't have the last pages of queso at the time, the final pages, which had never been handed over. That's why I say the state was trying to hide what they did. She didn't have those. So she filed a motion to test those bones, and you guys may remember back on December 18th or 19th of 2018, we did a video where we, after reading her motion, some real sharp members of the wrecking crew noticed that those bones had already been given back. On pages 1114 and 1115 of queso, you see that they are giving these bones back, and they are using a report from Leslie Eisenberg to decide which bones to give back and all that sort of stuff. Zellner didn't have that. So once I did a video, and then a month later we get a video, or we get an article in Newsweek where they're talking about this issue, and Zellner is now filing because they denied the testing, but now she was filing a motion saying that they had destroyed evidence, violated statute, destroyed evidence, and deliberately tried to hide it. And then she had the phone call from Mark Williams, who is just co-counsel with Fallon now, when this case is in the circuit court. They are co-counsel, and Mark Williams called Zellner's voicemail as if he was talking to Fallon, and was basically saying we should stall and not talk to Zellner and just stall and whatever and figure out what's what or whatever, this and that. And he's like making trying to make excuses kind of, but he was like he thought he was talking to Fallon somehow. Anyway, she makes this recording available to the judges at the Court of Appeals, and what do you know? In the end, they said, okay, yeah, we want this remanded for fact finding. Twice. In one case, when it's only happened a handful of times in Wisconsin. I think that is a huge signpost that kind of just illustrates how messed up it is, you know. Anyway. Being Green. Hey, Being Green. Something that's never happened before. I've never heard about a case involving Stephen Avery. I've never heard that about a case involving Stephen Avery. You're saying you never heard about the state hiding what they did with the bones from the Manitowoc County gravel pit in the quarry that they believe belonged to Teresa, that Ken Kratz couldn't spend 20 seconds on at trial, mainly because he just didn't want to give the jury any reason to think about those bones, because he was afraid that the jury might start to see the merits in Dean and Jerry's arguments about those bones. So he was afraid and said, I'll spend 20 seconds on those. The best that can be said about them is that they're a possible human. Right? So. Well, I am well aware of the issues and that the legal thing is they have to go through the courts. Deny. They're in total cover-up. This is not looking good for Wisconsin justice system. They're going to have to do something because KZ is not going away. Absolutely, she's not. She's going to keep knocking at that door, knocking at that door, knocking at that door. And, you know, and like I said, the youth of Wisconsin coming up, they see the problems here. And they're going to be the ones that are eventually filling the political, you know, positions there in Wisconsin eventually. And this is going to be an issue that they're going to be, you know, worried about. That justice doesn't become perverted. Right? Isn't that a good thing? Because I think right now, in the name of, you know, being tough on crime, I think we are in danger of perverting the spirit and the nature of our justice system. It's you know, I understand everybody wants to feel safe and they don't want to, you know, all that. I get that. That's something I understand, but we got to understand that there's other problems, you know, basically that are causing, you know, high crime and that sort of stuff, you know, and I don't know. I just hope that humankind is kind of nearing some sort of point of an evolution where they stop bickering kind of the way things are right now. If you look at anywhere where people disagree, it's like it's always highly polarized and highly extreme. Look at making a murderer, for instance. You know, you got the guilters who totally believe Steve and or Brendan are 100% guilty, and they can't understand how anybody could see any different. And then you got all the truthers who believe that it's so freaking obvious that this investigation was a farce, and that the only thing that would explain that would be them doing the same thing to him again that they did done in 1985. And so there's those people that reason it that way. And you think about it, not a lot of them are able to get along like, say, a lot of the Wrecking Crew get along with Falcon Apata, who believes that they're guilty. Well, at least he believes Steve's guilty. He's now willing to admit that, you know, he says that if Brendan were to get out today, he wouldn't have any issues with it. I'll put it that way. So that's the way he words it. But you know, for those of you who know, we sometimes talk with him and whatever, and I sometimes talk with some people who believe Stephen and Brendan are guilty in a Facebook group, basically that's called Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, you know, innocent or guilty, and it has a mixture of people who believe they're innocent and people who believe they're guilty, and there's a lot of discussion in there, and so I often will talk to some people in there. was actually recently. And I mean, all I can tell you, folks, is that when it comes to things people get passionate about and stuff, but there's like, people get so polarized and extreme that every sense of reason and all that stuff goes away. And it's all just about slinging, I call it flinging the poo at each other. And I feel that's a fitting kind of analogy, because that's what primates do. And it happens in many places. It happens obviously between, truthers and guilters here on MAM. It happens between, between the people who debate about 9/11, between everything that there's a major debate about, where people have really passionate feelings and beliefs. You get this thing where people get highly polarized. And the thing is that it's my feeling that it's important to be objective, and to try to be somewhere more in the middle. It's, I mean, I obviously believe that Stephen and Brendan are innocent, but I'm still reserved with my opinion, because I like to stay somewhat centered, to where I feel like I am still considering both sides of the argument. But yeah, definitely, as I've continued and continued to consider, I keep finding things to me that point to Stephen Avery not doing it, and that more and more impropriety by the state. And that to me is an indicator of trouble. And so I mean, it continues to reaffirm me in my belief that Stephen and Brendan are innocent. But I still prefer to try to keep that sense of, trying to be unbiased about it as much as possible, even though I clearly, as I've just admitted, have an opinion. But I still try to remain as middle of the road as I can, even though I have that opinion. And so, and I think more people need to start thinking that way, because we need to start thinking critically about the issues, instead of just blindly, just blindly going off without a real purpose in mind, right? I mean, I don't know. It's important to be informed. It's important to know your stuff if you're going to talk about it, because sometimes other people are going to know their stuff, and if you're not as up to speed as you need to be, sometimes you can find yourself floundering in an argument. So it's important to be informed and get informed. It's, I don't know, there's a lot of things out there to look out for, but it gets personal with your heart. Yeah. And that's true. But like, we still have to realize that, I don't know, like, I don't know if people have ever heard like the political spectrum described before, but it's talked about in a way where the right, or the conservative side, is really good at managing and planning and logistics and that kind of attention to detail and that sort of thing, to be able to run companies, businesses, and that sort of stuff really well. And on the left is usually the source of new ideas, in new innovations and things like that. And so they tend to come up with the innovations, and then it ends up being a mixture of them and people from the other side that end up coming in to help manage it and run it and keep it efficient and that sort of stuff. And that's the way it's supposed to work, because it has to come together so that both sides come together and work together to create something greater than the whole. unfortunately, with a lot of polarized arguments out here, particularly the MAM one, or even like with political arguments, is that everybody's so polarized. There is no looking to come together and compromise and work together to create something greater than the whole. It's gotten to the point where it's like so contentious, it's kind of scary. So, and like I said, it happened. I mean, even in MAM and stuff like that. I mean, I've been getting so many commenters coming on my channel recently. Some of the guilters that I haven't seen in a really long time have been getting on my videos recently and making a lot of comments because they're worried about this decision that was just made by Judge Sukowitz. And they were coming on and commenting a lot recently, more than they had been. And so I found that interesting, just to have that inrush of comments. Yeah, confirmation bias is dangerous. I mean, that's why, I once said when I first started going live after MAM2 came out, and I was going live, and there was more and more people kind of flooding in to my Making a Murderer channel. I know most of you have come from there, so, but anyway. But on that channel, I had so many people flowing in, and I ended up saying one night that I actually have some little area in my mind that allows me to consider that Stephen could be guilty. And I keep that area open because I feel it helps to keep me less biased. And for me, if I see something that actually makes me think he's guilty, I don't want to be unwilling to consider it. And that's what he's talking about with confirmation bias, is that you ignore things you don't want to see. That's what for me, that would be completely against what I'm trying to do here. If I was to do that and to ignore something, So, I don't know. For me, it's all about getting at the truth. And the fact is that the deeper and deeper that gets dug on this case, the more and more we find impropriety by the state, questionable things by the state. For a long time there was a big deal about, like, who cares about the coroner? No, who cares about the coroner? Until we recently found out when Kratz did that little thing for convicting a murderer, where he was interviewed by AC on Reddit, right? Those of you who know who that is, it's AC over on Twitter as well. Anyway, in that thing he said, what do I need a coroner for? They just come in and kick the body. I needed a forensic anthropologist. And after that clip got posted on Twitter, Jerry Buting was quick to post that Deb Kakich, this coroner, was already ready to show up herself, and a forensic anthropologist was ready to be there with her, and would have been able to take a look at all of this stuff, and most likely would have been taking pictures and everything, and all that sort of stuff. And that's what Ken Kratz said he needed. And plus a couple of other experts and forensic experts and stuff that were going to be coming with her. And they barred her and kept her away. Okay? And they sent the bones to Leslie Eisenberg in a box. Okay? They were desperate to keep Deb Kakich, the coroner, and her forensic anthropologist and her other experts away, and ended up taking no pictures and sending the bones to Leslie Eisenberg in 2 separate boxes. I mean, yeah. So, anyway. Make it a safe space and feel you are on the opinion and not going to create anything negative. And they should be, there is a thing called uncovering the cover-up. Yeah. You've always been good at seeing it from both sides, even though you're very one side, as am I. Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's important because, I mean, for me, it's like, I really want people who may be unconvinced to to consider a lot of the things that I say. And so sometimes I feel that it's important, I think, in trying to, further inform people like that, that they should see that I'm not unwilling to consider evidence against Avery. It's just that while I'm considering that evidence, I'm going to scrutinize it and think about it critically. And I'm going to want to figure out how, things like how it got there, why it would be there, and be able to explain its existence. Those are important things. And so if with any new thing that would be damning to Avery, it would also get evaluated just like anything else, and it would get scrutinized just like everything else. So, because everything else in this has been a joke and a mess. So, anyway. No pics, yeah, right. I gotta get some Blue Label though. Some Johnny Blue Label. I mean, I like the black, but that Blue Label, man, is just so primo, right? No. Anyway, I had a couple shots of the Blue Label once, and it was just amazing, absolutely amazing. It was, it went down smooth, but I remember I had 2 shots. And within 10 minutes, I was already feeling that kind of warm and fuzzy feeling. I wasn't buzzed, but I could feel if I was to, drink a beer or two, I would have been pretty buzzed if I would have, continued drinking at that point, So it's pretty wild, but no, it was really smooth, tasted really good. That Johnny Walker Blue Label, but you pay for it. For a bottle like this, I think it's $175 for a liter bottle or whatever it is, a quart or whatever it is. I don't know. Anyway, it's whatever a normal size bottle would be, kind of like this one. This one's the Johnny Double Black, and basically a Blue Label in this size would be $175. It's really expensive stuff. You know what else I have? Malibu rum. Woohoo! Coconut. Where's the rum? Why'd you burn all the rum? Tequila Rose. That stuff is pretty good. At least I'm not talking in cursive. Indeed. But I literally just started when this video started, so haven't had time to build up a cursive, as it were. I am wearing one of my favorite shirts. I don't see Ziggy tonight, but this shirt was made for me by Ziggy, and I love it. The dude, as I've been called by Mr. Capaldi. So, I love this shirt though. Decided to wear it tonight. Rum for the beta males. But why is the rum gone? Yes, exactly. But I do love this glass, though. Can you guys see that where it says Eric Jose on MAM? I live on Avery Road. I love Malibu too. I love Coke. I like the coconut. you know. What did I do with it? I like the coconut flavor in it. What did we used to make? There was something we used to make. Oh, yeah. We used to use the Captain Morgan's Parrot Bay and pineapple juice. Oh, that was good. Pineapple juice and the Captain Morgan's Parrot Bay. Oh, it was so good. So good. There were Malibu and pineapple. That would work. Similar because they're both basically coconut rum, right? That's what Parrot Bay is. Parrot Bay is their coconut rum. So, so you know, back in my 20s, I was a drinker, and I learned a lot about alcohol and different drinks, and so that's how I know about that. But anyway, I'm not actually like the dude, you know. I'm not a big fan of White Russians myself, you know. So anyway, need another screwdriver. There you go. So, let's see. Wow, so a lot of faces here. Catnip, hey Catnip, hey Linda, hey Pom Pom, of course, hey Bean Green, hey Joseph, how's it going, buddy? Never heard of Parrot Bay. Yeah, Captain Morgan's Parrot Bay. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. It's like I said, it's just like Malibu. Malibu is coconut rum, and so is Parrot Bay. Captain Morgan's Parrot Bay is the same thing. You know, because Captain Morgan got to be so popular, they went ahead and offered their rum, you know, in a coconut rum, you know, to go ahead and compete, I think, probably with rums like Malibu and other coconut rum. But anyway, it's their little brand. We used to, that's what, you know, back when I used to drink this, a friend that I hung out with was like, he loved Captain Morgan's. That's what he drank all the time. He called himself the captain's first mate, especially when he was drunk. And it was really, really funny and quite entertaining. So when we were in the you know, festive spirit of the islands or whatever, then it would be Captain Morgan's Parrot Bay and pineapple juice. And, you know, so anyways, funny stuff. Anyway. Avery Road is stuck in your head now. Hey, it's a great song. I mean, Stacy's a great songwriter. You know, he's and the fact is he's dug into the documents, and he's, you know, he knows this case inside and out. He knows what's up with it. He's done the research, and you can tell when you look at his lyrics and see the songs that he writes. He's no joke. He is a smart guy, and like I said, he's done his homework. So, Stacy's, you know, I think it's inevitable that Stacy's going to find some success with his music when eventually things get moving for Stephen and Brendan a bit more. So, I am feeling it. And in fact, I do have to now say goodnight to everybody because I do have to get up and go to work tomorrow. I actually am still in the middle of a very busy period, and that's why I haven't been able to look into like the Epstein thing, as I was saying earlier. But I do have to get up in the morning, and I have to go take care of something tomorrow, and also I'll be working. And but it was great to be here and talk with all 9 of you, or it's been filtering through, so there might be more than 9, but it says there's 16 playbacks, so hey, all 16 of you. But thank you for being here, coming over here on my other smaller little channel that isn't really noticeable. Thank you for being here. Um, you know, it's I feel passionate about this cause. It's why I'm here. It's why I do this. Um, it's always hard to know what other people's intentions are, and all I can do is warn people that there are some people out there that you have to watch out for. Sometimes they're sometimes it's obvious, sometimes maybe it's not. I don't know, but you got to be careful because there's a lot of people out there that like to cause trouble, and there's a lot of people out, and there are some people out there who are trouble, and it's important for us to try to cultivate the ability to really try to be able to discern the difference. There's just a lot of bickering going on out there, a lot of mudslinging going on out there, and all I would beg is that there is a call to reality, a call to rationality. That's the main thing I would ask for and hope for. So, and I hope everybody understands that. And like I said, I do have something I got to get to tomorrow, so I'm gonna go ahead and say good night. We'll look at the comment section here a little bit more. Be mindful and keep your focus on what's important. Absolutely. Getting Brendan and Steven out. Yes, absolutely. It's it's sometimes been hard, but it's always what's been driving me personally. I can't stand thinking about Brendan, number one, going in as a 16-year-old being railroaded the way he was, or Steven twice being screwed and having the same earmarks on the second investigation that were on the first one. And so it's a problem. It's a serious problem. So it is about them. It's important to remember that. 100%. Well, thank you, Linda. That is why we're here. You are in a safe place. Right on. Alright, thank you for being here, folks. It's been fun. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see ya.